Hello, my name is Regine Hampel. My colleague Helen and myself would like to give you a brief overview of various theories that are useful when researching multimodal language learning and teaching. We are suggesting that an ecological approach is particularly useful to frame the impact that the digital media are having on language learning and teaching today. A key theory in this context is complex dynamic systems theory. Here is a theoretical framework that helps us rethink and re-examine some of the key questions and phenomena in applied linguistics and language learning and teaching. It also helps to understand the demands made on teachers and learners today and how they can make best use of the new digital tools that are available. You can see that the framework uses complex dynamic systems theory as a meta-theory and combines it with sociocultural theory and social semiotics, that is, multimodality and multiliteracies. What you have here is a slightly updated version of my original 2019 framework. Diane Larson-Freeman in 2012 described complexity as a transdisciplinary theme in applied linguistics. I suggest that using CDST as a meta-theory, so one that allows to conceptualize the transformative changes that language learning and teaching has undergone. In addition, sociocultural theory provides an understanding of learning as situated in social contexts and the belief that mental functioning is mediated by one's environment, including through cultural artifacts, activities, and concepts. And semiotics, more precisely the theory of multimodal communication. A key publication here is the 2001 book by Günter Kress and Theo van Leeuwen, alongside the concept of multiliteracies. Here you might want to have a look at the work of the New London Group or the work of Mary Kalantzis and Bill Cope. This allows us to explore how meaning is created and communicated online. Language learning and language use means being able to combine speaking and listening as well as reading and writing in different contexts and for different purposes and for different audiences. And digital environments in particular allow learners not only to use images and graphical elements to complement the written and spoken word, but also to draw on their environment inside and outside the classroom to engage in activities that support the language learning process.
Hello, my name's Dr. Helen and I'm one of the authors on the paper in the special edition of Language Learning and Technology on Semiotics, entitled Geosemiotics as a Multi-Perspectivist Lens. I thought it might be useful to give a little background to the research and the rationale between combining the theory of negotiation of meaning with geosemiotics. So in this research, we wanted to understand how combinations of mobile technologies, mobile video conferencing to be specific, might be used to support negotiation from new perspectives. So the research actually involved learners outside the classroom operating from places such as cafes, museums, art galleries, and these were replete with L2 semiotic resources. So as one of the researchers, I went out and designed a series of information gap tasks based around these resources. We used Dewitt's definition because we found it sufficiently broad. And then we used negotiation of meaning as a principal basis, which is related to principal theories of language learning. It's part of the interactionist account of learning. And we drew on the Voronus and Gass model, which had been used quite comprehensively in core studies, but generally from an exclusively linguistic perspective. And it wasn't that we weren't interested in language, but we wanted to really understand language and embed it in its wider semiotic landscape. So it allowed us as researchers to identify in the tasks where learners had engaged in adjusting their messages, modifying communication, working together towards mutual comprehensibility, ideally resolving communicative difficulty, but from a wider perspective than's normally considered. And then it also linked directly to very practical aspects of teaching, such as task design. So when I designed the information gap tasks, I kind of reconceptualized them, and instead of just a sheet of paper that bore no relationship to the places where the learners were, I decided to take various photographs of their surroundings and design the tasks around that, where learners had to negotiate and exchange information. They had split information, but it was about their surroundings. So it focused on resources such as food, paintings, photographs, statues, that kind of thing. Yeah, in the next slide, I'll discuss a little bit about our use of geosemiotics. So in the previous slide, I explained our emphasis on negotiation of meaning. And in this slide, we've got another multimodal theoretical framework for you to consider. So Regine presented her framework, and she also introduced the topic of geosemiotics. And I'll explain a little of how we used it and why we used it. So geosemiotics was not originally designed to analyse a mobile video conferencing environment. However, the concept behind the framework involved public places, embodied communication, movement, and there are a lot of similarities between the literature and mobile learning and this framework. So we decided to use the three categories in the framework, which are the interaction order based on Goffman's work, which we used to focus on embodied aspects of communication, so gesture, speech, facial expression, which were also involved in non-understanding and resolution of difficulty. And then the second category, based on the earlier work of Kress and reading images, and this allowed us to both recognise the meaning potential of artefacts such as paintings and photographs in the learner's environment, but to also understand their deployment of the camera and device to convey visual information, but to also negotiate this when visuals actually broke down. And the final category is place. And the beauty of this framework is that place, instead of being a sort of context or incidental, can be foregrounded. And we found that place itself was capable of supporting negotiation of meaning from new perspectives.